while now, I've been wanting to make a video, or 3, about the tribal war god of Abraham's omniproperties, his omniscience, omnipotence, and omnibenevolence. Obviously, these are insanely difficult concepts to wrap one's mind around. So I decided to consult some of the professional literature on the subject. Of course, like all bullshit ideas made up by humans in order to soothe our existential angst, and of which we have absolutely no knowledge or experience whatsoever, God and his omniproperties are equally and entirely incomprehensible, lacking any kind of demonstrable, reliable, actionable knowledge. Indeed, the professionals who waste their lives, spend their lives trying to wrap their minds around such concepts, they can't even agree on a definition of what, for instance, it means to be omniscient. Can a being who is omniscient have beliefs? Must this being be infallible? What is the scope of this all-knowingness? Does an omniscient being know all things about the future? Must a necessary being be omniscient? Is such a being's knowledge dispositional or occurrent? Does this being see all things together or successively? Does an omniscient being understand and experience all our subjective experiences, etc.? If you're looking for an answer to these questions, good luck, because no one knows anything about any of this. And to the extent that one even ventures an opinion, it's pretty clear from the literature that whatever opinion one holds in regard to these questions, that opinion is motivated by a desire to make whatever omniscient being imagined fit a particular model, for which the philosopher in question has grown fond. What else could there possibly be to go on? For instance, if you want your all-knowing being to be compatible with the idea that we have free will, there will be some mental gymnastics required. Or at the very least, you're going to have to engineer a definition of omniscience which can accommodate free will. My dear friend Michael Jones from the Inspiring Philosophy channel has this explanation.
Let's say I had a time machine and I went into the future and saw everything you're going to do tomorrow. Then I came back to the present time. Would my foreknowledge determine everything you are going to do tomorrow? Of course not. It was your actions in the future which determined what I knew.
A case of Godsheimer's. Michael forgets that he is not God. I'm not certain of that, but he doesn't look like him. And God's knowledge of what we'll do is not the result of God having a time machine, which isn't a real thing. God knew what all of us would do before time even existed, as though that actually means something. Think about that, though. Before time existed, God knew everything we do, and everything he'd do. Which makes one wonder, does God have free will? If one knows infallibly what one will do, and one cannot do otherwise, in what sense is one free to do what one already knows one must do? #divine determinism. Michael is also forgetting that God is all-powerful. I didn't decide to be me. There are an infinite number of parameters which make me, me, and all of them were and are completely under God's control. The time and place of my birth, my parents, the people with whom I'd interact and who would influence me, my genes, and all the various parameters which cause me to respond to particular stimuli the way I uniquely respond, etc. An all-powerful God could have made me differently, so that I would have made different choices in any particular situation. Or could he? Does God's omniscience mean that he had to create me the way he created me because that's what he infallibly knew he'd do? And if so, who or what determined that I would be the way I am now and always was in God's all-knowing mind before time even existed? Does any of this make sense? I don't think so. But here's what makes even less sense. God allegedly knows everything. He knows how all the billions of neurons in my brain will make the trillions of connections they make. He knows the position of every star in the universe and exactly how much hydrogen is left in each of them. He knows where every quark, gluon, and atom are, and how they'll behave in every given situation. And yet, this being can't figure out how to clearly and definitively communicate his will and interests to the sentient creatures in his universe. He couldn't foresee how his instructions to the Hebrews on how to practice slavery would cause 246 years of future suffering for a particular people. He couldn't see how leaving us without a single eyewitness to the only event that has any meaning in the universe, the death and resurrection of his son/self, would doom billions of sentient beings to an eternity of suffering. Nor, apparently, could he use his omni-properties to create all the sentient beings he knew would end up in heaven already in heaven, bypassing this mess altogether and leaving uncreated those doomed to suffer eternally. At the very least, you don't create Lucifer, right? Unless your infallible knowledge of doing so left you no choice. #nonsense. Once again, I'm me. Not that I had any choice in the matter. Thanks for watching.